For millions of fans, every Pink Floyd song is a masterpiece, a trip through time, emotion, and imagination. But for David Gilmour, the man whose guitar solos defined a generation, not every track brings back good memories. Some songs, despite their fame, carry frustration, regret, and reminders of the chaos that tore the band apart. At 78, Gilmour has finally spoken about the Pink Floyd songs he secretly disliked, tracks he played for decades but never truly loved. Today on Legend Uncovered, we explore the 5 songs that made Gilmour wince, even as the crowd cheered. Let's begin. Number 5. Money, 1973. The bass riff is iconic, the groove unforgettable. Money, from the Dark Side of the Moon, is one of Pink Floyd's biggest hits. And ironically, one of the songs Gilmour grew tired of the fastest. In interviews, he admitted the song's unusual 7/4 rhythm made it a nightmare to play live. He once said, "It never quite feels comfortable. It's like walking with one shoe off." But rhythm wasn't the only problem. Money became the song that the press and record labels obsessed over, the one they used to sell the band's identity. Gilmour, a man who always cared more about melody and emotion than marketing, began to resent how this one song overshadowed the rest of Dark Side. Roger Waters wrote the lyrics, a cynical look at greed and consumerism. Yet the song, ironically, made the band rich beyond imagination. Gilmour later joked, "We sang about how money corrupts, and then it nearly did." What began as a social statement became a symbol of what Pink Floyd was running from, fame itself. Number 4. Another Brick in the Wall, Part 2, 1979. Chanting kids, a disco beat, and a chorus that became an anthem of rebellion. For many, Another Brick in the Wall is Pink Floyd's most famous song. But for Gilmour, it was a constant source of discomfort. He didn't like disco. He didn't like the mechanical groove producer Bob Ezrin insisted on. He later said, "It never felt like us. It was Roger's idea to make it danceable. I thought it was odd. A protest song with a disco rhythm." Even though Gilmour delivered one of his best solos on that track, he rarely speaks fondly of it. Why? Because it symbolized how divided Pink Floyd had become by that time. Waters controlled the concept, the message, even the choir. Gilmour was there to execute, not create. When the song became a global hit, Gilmour called it bittersweet. He said, "It brought us success, but also the kind of attention that broke us." Number 3, Dogs of War, 1987. When A Momentary Lapse of Reason came out in 1987, Pink Floyd was a very different band. Roger Waters was gone, the lawsuits were brutal, and Gilmour was trying to rebuild the band's identity. One track from that album, Dogs of War, became his least favorite to perform. He described it as too bombastic, too forced, the kind of thing we'd once mocked. It was supposed to be a politically charged anthem, but to Gilmour, it felt artificial, heavy, without heart. He once said, "I've never liked songs that shout their message. I prefer when the music whispers it." Despite being the frontman at that time, Gilmour felt that Dogs of War didn't carry the essence of what made Pink Floyd great, the tension between atmosphere and meaning. He rarely includes it in solo performances, and even decades later, he called it a song I could live without. Number 2, Not Now John, 1983. By the time the final cut was recorded, Pink Floyd wasn't really a band anymore. It was Roger Waters' personal project. Gilmour himself called it essentially a Roger Waters solo album with me guesting. Not Now John was the only truly rock-oriented track on the album, and Gilmour hated the experience. He once admitted, "The lyrics were all anger, political shouting. I sang my parts, but my heart wasn't in it." He also disliked the production, harsh, cluttered, and tense. The sessions were miserable. Band members communicated through engineers instead of face-to-face. When asked years later about the song, Gilmour said, "I have no emotional connection to it. It reminds me of how bad things got." That track marked the end of Pink Floyd as fans knew it, and Gilmour knew it too. The bitterness in the studio bled into every note. Number 1, The Narrow Way, Part 3, 1969. Before Dark Side, before The Wall, there was Umaguma, Pink Floyd's strangest and most experimental album. Each member contributed solo compositions, and Gilmour's piece, The Narrow Way, was his first real attempt to write alone for the band. But he's been brutally honest about it ever since. He once confessed, "I had no idea what I was doing. I wasn't ready to write on my own." Recorded in a rush and buried under studio effects, the song represented Gilmour's growing pains as a songwriter. Fans might see it as psychedelic genius, but Gilmour saw it as evidence of insecurity. He said, "It's me trying to be clever without really knowing how. I don't think it's very good," and yet that early failure became the seed for everything that followed. Without The Narrow Way, there might never have been Echoes or Comfortably Numb. Every great artist has songs they regret, even David Gilmour. For him, it was never about hating the fans' favorites. It was about hating how those songs reminded him of difficult times, fights, fatigue, or creative loss. Money reminded him of fame's irony. Another brick reminded him of the band's collapse. Dogs of War reminded him of trying too hard. Not Now John reminded him of the end. And The Narrow Way reminded him of how far he still had to go. Yet each one shaped the guitarist we know today, thoughtful, soulful, and brutally honest. He once said, "You don't always love the songs that make you who you are, but they're still part of you." That's what makes David Gilmour truly special, not just the perfection of his music, but the honesty to admit when perfection was never the goal.
Please don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell icon.